Hey everybody, good day to you. God bless you. I hope that you're having a blessed day. I know that I am. Um, we left off in Genesis at the end of Genesis chapter 30, and if you remember in Genesis chapter 30, um, Jacob and Rachel had just born Jacob, um, Joseph, which was the 11th patriarch, and then Jacob had said to Laban, I'm ready to get my wives and my children and get get out of here. I've served you for your daughters, and now it's time for me to leave. And um, before he left, Jacob and Laban had agreed that um, they would split up the cattle, and because Laban had changed Jacob's wages over 10 times, God caused the cattle that were to be Jacob's to conceive, and the stronger cattle to end up being Jacob's. And right after the cattle had conceived, and the stronger were Jacob's and the weaker were Laban's, that's where we left off at the end of chapter 30. So we're going to pick it up with Genesis chapter 31. God, I pray that you open eyes, open ears this day. Father, bring your children out of confusion. A word of wisdom. Great book of Genesis, word of wisdom from our Father in Yeshua's name, chapter 31, verse 1, and it reads, And he heard the words of Laban's sons, saying, Jacob hath taken away all that was our father's, and of that which was our father's hath he gotten all this glory. And of course, from their perspective, it may look like that. Verse 2, And Jacob beheld the countenance of Laban, and behold, it was not towards him as before, or he noticed that it was not good towards him as it was before. Verse 3, And the Lord said unto Jacob, Return unto the land of thy fathers, and to thy kindred, and I will be with thee. And this is really comforting and important to know to Jacob, when God says that he will be with you. No one else better that you can have by your side, or if you're saved, in your own soul. Verse 5, and said, verse 4, And Jacob sent and called Rachel and Leah to the field and to his flock. Verse 5, and said unto them, I see your father's countenance, that it is not towards me as before, but the God of my father hath been with me. He's telling them, hey, I noticed that Laban is not feeling so hot about me as he did before, but God is with me, and he has really no reason to be upset with me. Verse 6, and ye know that with all my power I have served your father. He's saying I've done everything he's asked me to do to receive you guys. Verse 7, and your father hath deceived me and changed my wages 10 times, but God suffered him not to hurt me. He's saying God allowed him to change my wages, but he wouldn't let him lay a hand on me or hurt me. Verse 8, and God will do that. He protects his own always. Verse 8, if he said thus, the speckled shall be thy wages, then all the cattle bear speckled. And if he said thus, the ring-straked shall be thy hire, then bear all the cattle ring-straked. Verse 9, thus God hath taken away the cattle of your father and given them to me. This is God setting things right. Verse 10, and it came to pass at the time that the cattle conceived, that I lifted up mine eyes and saw in a dream, and behold, the rams which leaped upon the cattle were ring-straked, or streaked, speckled, and grizzled. Speckled and grizzled meaning gray spotted. Verse 11, and the angel of God spake unto me in a dream, saying, Jacob. And I said, Here am I. Verse 12, and he said, Lift up thine eyes, and see, all the rams which leap upon the cattle are ring-straked, or streaked, speckled, and grizzled, or gray-spotted. For I have seen all that Laban doeth unto thee. God always sees. Verse 13, I am the God of Bethel, Bethel meaning house of God, where thou anointedest the pillar. And this would have been back in Genesis 28:16. And where thou vowedest a vow unto me. Now, arise, get thee out from this land, and return into the land of thy kindred. Verse 14. And Rachel and Leah answered and said unto him, Is there yet any portion or inheritance for us in our father's house? He's saying, what is he going to have left? Verse 15, Are we not counted of him strangers? He's already sold us unto you. For he hath sold us, and hath quite devoured also our money. He spent all of our money. Verse 16, For all the riches which God hath taken from our father, that is ours, and our children's. Now then, whatsoever God hath said unto thee, do. They know they're married unto Jacob, and they know that God is with Jacob, and so they're going to stand behind him. Verse 17, Then Jacob rose and set his sons and his wives upon camels, preparing them to leave. Verse 18, And he carried away all his cattle, or livestock, and all his goods which he had gotten, the cattle or livestock of his getting, which he had gotten in Padanaram, for to go to Isaac his father in the land of Canaan. Like I said, getting prepared to go back. Verse 19, And Laban went to shear his sheep, and Rachel had stolen the images that were her father's. This word images in the Hebrew, it means household idols. The word is teraphim. Obviously, Laban wasn't doing too much worship of the living God, and more so some household wood whittled or golden idols that won't get you very far. Jacob worships God, and you can see how God is blessing him. Verse 19, or verse 20. And Jacob stole away unawares to Laban the Syrian, and that he told him not that he fled. He was trying to get out of there quietly because he knew Laban's countenance had changed toward him, and he wasn't feeling so good towards Jacob as he had before. Verse 21. So he fled with all that he had, and he rose up and passed over the river, and set his face toward the Mount Gilead. This word Gilead meaning rocky region. Verse 22. And it was told Laban on the third day that Jacob was fled. I'm sure Laban's not going to be too happy about this. Verse 23. And he took his brethren with him, and pursued after him 7 days' journey. Laban getting together a group and going after Jacob. And they overtook him in the Mount Gilead, or the rocky region. Verse 24. And God came to Laban the Syrian in a dream by night. Here's God working in the midst again, protecting his own. And said unto him, Take heed that thou speak not to Jacob, either good or bad. God's telling Laban to just leave Jacob alone. Verse 25. Then Laban overtook Jacob. Now Jacob had pitched his tent in the mount, and Laban with his brethren pitched in the mount of Gilead. Verse 26. And Laban said to Jacob, What hast thou done, that thou hast stolen away unawares to me, or you took off without saying anything, and carried away my daughters as captives taken with the sword? Question. Of course, this is complete lie. What he's accusing Jacob of, because Jacob had rightly served Laban for both Rachel and Leah, the 14 years, 7 years apiece. Verse 27. Wherefore didst thou flee away secretly, and steal away from me. This is Laban talking to Jacob still. And didst not tell me that I might have sent thee away with myrrh, or with joy, and with songs, and with tabret or timbrel, and with harp? Question. Verse 28. And hast not suffered me or allowed me to kiss my sons and my daughters? Question. That thou hast now done foolishly in so doing. That wasn't smart of you to do, Jacob. Kind of a semi-threat, an undertone. Verse 29. Remember what God had instructed Laban, though. If he's smart, he's going to listen to him. Let's find out. Verse 29. It is in the power of my hand to do you hurt. Or I'm in a position to where I could do you hurt. But, let's pay attention. The God of your father spake unto me yesternight, or last night, saying, Thou take thou heed that thou speak not to Jacob either good or bad. Verse 30. And now, though thou wouldest needs be gone, because thou sore longedst after thy father's house, yet wherefore hast thou stolen my gods? Obviously, Laban realizes now that someone had stolen his household idols, his teraphim, his gods that he was worshiping. Jacob is unaware of this because he didn't know. Remember that back in verse 19, and Laban went to shear his sheep, and Rachel had stolen the images that were her father's. But Jacob was unaware of this. Verse 31. And Jacob answered and said to Laban, Because I was afraid, for I said, Peradventure thou wouldest take by force thy daughters from me. Or suppose Laban, since his countenance is changed, would take his daughters by force from me. Verse 32. With whomsoever thou findest thy gods, let him not live. Before our brethren, discern thou what is thine with me, and take it to thee. For Jacob knew not that Rachel had stolen them. Jacob saying, hey, you go through and inspect everything I got and bring it out here and lay it out before me and show me what I've stolen from you, because I haven't stolen anything from you. He's betting his life on the fact that he knows he hasn't stolen anything from Laban. Verse 33. This could be trouble, because remember, Rachel had stolen the household items, just hadn't told Jacob about it. Verse 33, but God's going to take care of it. And Laban went into Jacob's tent, and into Leah's tent, and into the two maidservants' tents, but he found them not. He didn't find anything. Then went he out of Leah's tent, and entered into Rachel's tent. Remember, Rachel's the one who took these things. Verse 34. Now Rachel had taken the images, or the household idols, and put them in the camel's furniture, or in the camel's saddle, and sat upon them. And Laban searched all the tent, but found them not. Verse 35. And she's clever. And she said to her father, Let it not displease my lord that I cannot rise up before thee, for the custom of women is upon me. And he searched, but found not the images. Pretty smart thinking. Verse 36. And Jacob was wroth. He was angry, righteously angry, and chode with Laban. Or he rebuked Laban. And Jacob answered and said to Laban, What is my trespass? Question. Or what is my transgression or my sin against you? What is my sin that thou hast so hotly pursued after me? Question. Why are you after me? I haven't taken anything from you. Verse 37. Whereas thou hast searched all my stuff, what hast thou found of all thy household stuff? Question. Show me, what did you find that I stole from you? Set it here before my brethren and thy brethren, that they may judge betwixt us both. Verse 38. This 20 years have I been with thee. Thy ewes and thy she-goats have not cast their young, and thy rams of thy flock have I not eaten. He's saying, I haven't piggybacked off of you. I've made my own way. God's blessed me since I've been with you. And you've been blessed by default, therefore. Verse 39. Well, he was as long as Jacob was there. Now that Jacob's gone, the blessings have gone with him. That which was torn of beast I brought not unto thee. I bear the loss of it. Or he's saying the loss of my livestock that I've had with you while I was with you. I didn't ask you for any compensation for it. Of mine hand didst thou require it, whether stolen by day or stolen by night. Verse 40. Thus I was in the day the drought consumed me, and the frost by night, and my sleep departed from mine eyes. Verse 41. Thus I have been 20 years in thy house. I served thee 14 years for thy 2 daughters, and 6 years for thy cattle or livestock, and thou hast changed my wages 10 times. He's saying, I've done everything you've asked me to do to earn everything, your 2 daughters and the cattle, and you kept changing my wages the entire time. He seemed to pretty much saying, why don't you just leave me alone? Verse 42. Except the God of my father, the God of Abraham, and the fear of Isaac had been with me. This is very important to pay attention to. Surely thou hadst sent me away now empty. If it wasn't for God making sure that everything got set right, you would have surely sent me away empty-handed or done me harm. God hath seen mine affliction and the labor of my hands, and rebuked thee yesternight. He told you yesternight in the dream to leave me alone. Verse 43. And Laban answered and said unto Jacob, These daughters are my daughters, and these children are my children, and these cattle are my cattle, and all that thou seest is mine. And what can I do this day unto thee, my daughters? What can I do this day unto these my daughters, or unto their children which they have borne? Well, they're all my family members. What am I supposed to do to them? I'm not going to hurt them. Verse 44. Now therefore come thou, let us make a covenant. I'm noticing a pattern here. People wanting to make a covenant of people who are blessed by God. I and thou, and let it be for a witness between me and thee. Verse 45. And Jacob took a stone and set it up for a pillar. Verse 46. And Jacob said unto his brethren, Gather stones. And they took stones and made an heap, and they did eat there upon the heap. Verse 47. And Laban called it Yegar Shahadutha, this word meaning the heap of witness. But Jacob called it Gilead. Gilead meaning the same thing. Or Jacob called it Galeed, meaning the same thing, the heap of witness. Verse 48. And Laban said, This heap is a witness between me and thee to this day. Therefore was the name of it called Galeed, or Galeed. Verse 49. And Mizpah, this word Mizpah meaning a watchtower. For he said, The Lord watch between me and thee, when we are absent one from another. Verse 50. If thou shalt afflict my daughters, or if thou shalt take other wives besides my daughters, no man is with us. See, God is witness betwixt me and thee. He's saying this is a witness pile to symbolize that God is watching over you. You better do my daughters right while I'm not around, or since I'm not with you and you're taking them off. He's asking Jacob to make a covenant with him. Verse 51. And Laban said to Jacob, Behold this heap, and behold this pillar which I have cast betwixt me and thee. Verse 52. This heap be a witness, and this pillar be witness, that I will not pass over this heap to thee, and thou shalt not pass over this heap and this pillar unto me for harm. You stay on that side, I'll stay on this side. Verse 53. The God of Abraham and the God of Nahor, the God of their father, judge betwixt us. And Jacob sware by the fear of his father Isaac, or he sware by the fear or the love of God that his father Isaac had. Verse 54. Then Jacob offered sacrifice upon the mount. This is important to pay attention to. Jacob's offering sacrifice unto God upon the mount, and Laban is probably going to go off and still look for his little heathen gods that he doesn't know are still in Rachel's saddle. Verse 54. Then Jacob offered sacrifice upon the mount, and called his brethren to eat bread. And they did eat bread, and tarried all night in the mount. Verse 55. And early in the morning Laban rose up, and kissed his sons and daughters, and blessed them. And Laban departed, and returned unto his place. God keeping Jacob safe, and Laban getting to kiss his sons and daughters one last time before he returned to Padanaram. Okay, that's going to conclude chapter 31. Thanks for being with us today and having Bible study. I love you because you love studying God's Word chapter by chapter, verse by verse. More importantly, God loves you for that. He really does. When you study His Word and you seek after Him and you desire to know His thoughts and emotions, He's going to be with you and protect you. But remember, everything's in Christ's name, because if it wasn't for the blood of Christ and that cross, Him being crucified, we wouldn't be able to have a relationship with God, or it would be Old Testament style. But now you can just go in and commune with God if you're a Christian and be blessed. So don't miss the next lecture. Thanks for watching.